Welcome to my channel. In this video, I will narrate the story of Turkey becoming a superpower. But before the story, don't forget to like and subscribe my channel. Let's go.
The story begins when Michael became the leader of Turkey. He dreamed that one day Turkey would become a superpower country. But after World War I, it was heavily damaged, and because of that, they had fallen behind the European nations. Yet they were still far superior to the eastern neighbors. But Michael was not satisfied, because they still had many conflicts with their neighbors. For example, they had all these border conflicts that were never completely withdrawn or resolved. But the main problem was Trevor. Trevor always wanted to conquer their lands and always bothered this nation. Because of him, Michael always tried to prepare lots of divisions to defend themselves, which cost a lot for their nation. Besides, Michael knew that if they wanted to be a superpower country, they needed real power, food, industry, and infrastructure. But they didn't have enough factories. Michael always wanted to restore the glory of the Ottoman Empire, but given the situation, it seemed very unlikely. Therefore, Michael summoned his Ministry of Economy and said, "Jimmy, what is the state of our accounts?" Jimmy answered, "Overall, our global rank is 17. The people are hungry, and we are behind the stronger nations." Michael said, "Okay, what shall we do? Do we have a plan to make great progress in our economy and become a superpower country?" Jimmy said, "Okay, let's have a plan. Most of our expenditures are related to our military. We have to focus on our civilian factories and on our infrastructure. But we don't have enough civilian factories to build and expand our infrastructure, and that takes time." Michael said, "I get it. What should we do now?" Jimmy said, "Okay, army expenditures are too high and we cannot afford that. Because of that, I suggest we reduce our expenditures, or even we can sell our equipment. We can sell our army equipment because there are lots of countries that need our technology and they don't have enough technology to produce the same equipment. And we can sell it at a high price. Because of that, we can make lots of money and mechanize our factories and industry. Also, we can import oil from our neighbors, because our neighbors are richer than us. We can test the equipment and import oil to reduce our costs. But you have to know, if we do that, our military will be disarmed or at least weakened, and that may be a little dangerous." Michael said, "Of course, that's too dangerous. With a weakened army, Trevor may return and conquer our land." Michael was really terrified, but Jimmy said, "Don't worry. I have a great answer for that. I know what we shall do. There is a man named Lester, and he is a competitor of Trevor. If we befriend him, he will help us, and he will protect us. I think that's our last choice. We will pick only a few countries to improve our relations, and if we have good relations with them, because of the competition, Trevor will not be allowed to invade our land." This was ready-made for Michael's team, and immediately he accepted. He signed a memorandum with Lester, and they immediately put the equipment for sale. Immediately they found a customer, and they sold a lot of equipment, and they made lots of money, the money that they needed to expand the industry in their land. They understood that with this method they can expand the economy, and they can expand their industry. So they sent this amount of equipment to the international market, and they found more customers. That was good. But in Turkey, they didn't have enough military factories, and they couldn't afford enough equipment. Because of that, Michael called Jimmy again and asked, "What shall we do now? We sold our equipment, but I need more money to expand our industry." Jimmy said, "Increase the price." But Michael said, "We did it. Give us another solution too." Jimmy said, "Okay, I have another solution for you. Sell convoys and trains. Now, we don't have lots of tension in our waters and there isn't a lot of naval war in the world. Because of that, maybe this will be the best. We can see that ordinary, really crucial means like convoys and trains are needed. Not only the countries that have dictators or are involved in civil wars need equipment, others need logistics too. For example, countries like Iran don't want lots of heavy equipment, they need convoys to trade with the world. They want convoys to sell the oil that's in Iran and in all the eastern countries. Because of that, maybe this is a better choice. Whereas countries like Iran and Iraq need convoys to sell their resources, although they may have ports, they might not have any dockyards to build convoys or battleships. But we have at least one dockyard. We can use that to build and sell convoys at a high price. Some countries, as I said, are forced to buy convoys, and we can make lots of money. After a few years, Michael became very rich and he was successful. Then he called his foreign minister and asked, "Okay, we're successful in our economy. What about our policy? What should we do? We made a lot of money, but policy is one of the most important factors in our country. So what should we do, and what's your suggestion?" The minister said, "Germany has had good advances and achievements in Europe, and I know their leader is not a peaceful man and maybe he will deliver war on the neighbors. In addition, we have agreed to retain the order and the symbol of democracy. They are a superpower country not only in Europe but in the world. And then, consider Trevor in the East. I suggest that you work with all of them. Use all of them and befriend them all, because these two realms have lots of problems with each other." After gaining a lot, Michael turned to technology and the scientists. He asked the scientists, "What is the state of our technology? Are we in a really good position?" The scientists answered, "No. We are not in a good position. We don't have modern technology in our industry. We don't use modern technology in industry, and we don't have lots of laboratories for our technology or research." They said, "Yes, you should first conduct industrial research, because with that, we can expand our industry. We can build factories faster, and we can increase the output of our factories. Maybe we can ignore the oil industry's resources for a moment, because we don't have any oil resources in Turkey, and oil alone would be useless without industry. First, conduct the essential industrial research. Then, if we have time and a useful group, we will seriously develop the oil industry. But the government needs its teeth, its strength, and lots of reforms." Again, Jimmy guided Michael. He said, "One of the most practical rules is trade. If you enact free trade as our law, the people are allowed to trade freely, and that leads to helping the economy grow. Because they can, without any leeway or restrictions, trade freely. That's good for industrial people and merchants." So Michael decided to enact this law, and he did it as fast as possible. But they had to reform a lot of laws in the government. After that, they implemented more reforms and more laws. The next law is about consumption. Michael ordered people to consume less and want more productivity and output, and because of that, they could get more factories running efficiently. After that, Jimmy introduced some of his friends who came from Chicago. They had studied economics and were businessmen. Because of that, Michael accepted their offer, and he hired them in the government. So he didn't need a lot of time to perform reforms in the economy. They tried to subsidize the scientists and research. For example, they controlled the birth rate, and for example, they enacted a law that was about the capitalists, about what capitalism is, along with lots of economic reforms. After that, total economic progress became clearly visible. Data showed our indicators improved, some measures dropped where needed, and numbers rose where needed. For example, indices went from 17 to 40. During this time, the government of Michael tried to get closer to the West more than ever before. And one more positive step was inviting German and Italian scientists to Turkey and providing them with all necessary equipment and facilities to conduct their research there. Because of these decisions, Turkey's technology was getting better every day. After some time, infrastructure was built and made operational. Investment was directed to keep order in the East. Conservation and stabilization projects were undertaken because the region had problems with the central government, which often led to conflict. Because of that, the central government intended to construct in Turkey to bind the regions together. After the economy gained industrial progress, Michael decided to focus a bit more on his military. Because of that, he started to be more militarily effective. He started to prepare more divisions, and he started to produce more military equipment. He offered investment contracts with the West and contacts abroad. These decisions and these acts led to angering Trevor, and he was not satisfied with this situation because he was losing Turkey. Besides, Jimmy prepared a pact named the Anti-Comintern, the first against the communists in the world, and Turkey joined that. Because of that, Trevor was really angry with them. Because of that, Michael understood that it was essential to improve the army's situation. He prepared more divisions. He developed army technology. He built up a really strong army, both in details and in totals. He said, "We should not allow anyone, even Trevor, to access Iran's or Iraq's oil resources. If they access that oil, they can develop their country really fast. Now we have development in our economy, now we are ranked 13. But oil is really essential, and that really helps our economy." So he turned his earliest intention toward Iraq. He understood that if he conquered there, he would access the oil resources. He could get more factories. But there is a big and huge problem. Britain has guaranteed Iraq, and because of that, that was really dangerous. Because of this issue, he could not seize Iraq directly. So he tried to invade Iraq carefully. It was a better choice than others, but they had many internal problems, and no one was handling them properly. They had more oil resources, they had more factories, but that was really a challenge, because they had more divisions and they had a strong army. But Michael knew that he could be successful in this way because he tried to develop the infrastructure. Infrastructures were developed, the army was developed, and he did lots of reforms. Because of that, he knew he would be successful in his efforts. He sent all the commanders and all the army to the eastern frontiers. And he believed, on and on, they had a great advance in their territory, and they were successful. They conquered Iran completely. Because of this conquest, they gained access to lots of oil resources, and they were able to develop the oil industry. They could develop their economy more than before because they got lots of factories in Iran. This victory caused Michael's self-confidence to greatly increase. Because of that, Michael ordered the scientists to develop their heavy military industries, like planes and tanks. He decided to improve the army with modern tanks, and he wanted to produce more tanks for the army. He wanted to develop the Air Force, too. One of the most important decisions he had was about the oil industry, and he was successful in exporting lots of oil to different countries in the world. Now he was able to develop the tanks, because now they had access to lots of oil resources. Meanwhile, news arrived from Europe. Germany conquered the Czech lands in Czechoslovakia and Austria completely, and they declared war on Poland. Besides that, the Soviet Union became involved in a civil war, and world tensions increased significantly. So in the next part, we will see what will happen and how the war will involve the tanks.